On June 12th, a London-bound Air India flight took off from Ahmedabad and crashed after less than 40 seconds of being airborne. 241 of 242 people on board died. The probe is being carried out, ostensibly by the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, but it's already faced a roadblock. The aircraft's black box, crucial for piecing together the truth, has been found to be so severely damaged that it's been flown to the US National Transportation Safety Board or NTSB's lab for advanced decoding instead of the AAIB's facility. This was reported by ET last week. Meanwhile, in an unprecedented move, the Indian government set up a parallel safety investigation panel under the Union Home Secretary. The panel has set itself an ambitious and somewhat unrealistic target of submitting a probe report in just 3 months. In this episode, we try to set some context to this confusion by talking to Mr. Aurobindo Handa, former Director General of the AAIB. In his over 3-year tenure, Mr. Handa handled more than 100 air accidents and incidents, including the Calicut air crash of 2020. Mr. Handa is an Indian Air Force veteran of more than 3 decades. He moved from the AAIB in 2022 and last held the position of Chairman of the Accident Investigation Group of the ICAO APAC region in 2023. In this episode, he tells us what is the mandate of the AAIB, how does it probe accidents, and how is it constantly constrained by limited and underpaid manpower. Listen on, it's Tuesday, the 24th of June. I'm your host Anirban Chowdhury. This is the Morning Brief. Hi, Mr. Handa. Very warm welcome to the Morning Brief.
Hi, good morning to everyone.
Why don't you start by telling me what the AAIB does? What is its mandate?
Anirban, the mandate is, it's like a fact-finding body. So we have to find the root cause or the most probable cause, you can say.
Right.
We do not apportion the blame. It's not a institution which puts blame. We are a fact-finding body. So that everyone should be very clear about it, because this mandate is derived from Annexure 13 called Annex 13 of UN. And we have translated majority of that to our AAIB rules, which were initially made in 2012, then later amended in 17, 18, 20. So that is the scope and mandate under which the AIB functions.
Okay, understood. Got it. Take us through the first 24 hours after an air accident. What are the first steps and how does it go from there?
I'll give you 2 examples. One was the last crash which took place on 8th of August 2020, which was in Calicut, which was 737, and this one. So I'll try to draw similarities between both and even the dissimilarities between both.
Sure.
See, the first point is when you get the information, the first thing is that the AIB investigators move to the crash site. So now when the AIB investigators reach there, obviously the first responders, that is the Airport Authority of India, the security, that is CISF, their own security, then the NDRF element which is there, then the local police and the local people. So everyone gathers around and the main aim is to save lives as far as possible. So the main focus is even if you are able to save one life, that will be very good, you know. This is what happened in Calicut. This is what happened in Ahmedabad crash. So when the AIB investigators reach, it may be 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. So then the ball starts shifting into their court. So in 99% of the cases, most of the evacuation is complete. Now, primary aim of AIB investigators is to secure the evidence. So the investigators start cordoning up the area because the vital evidence is there. Now, once the site is secured, the hunt for recorders start. whether you
Right.
call it TFTR or you call it CVR. We were lucky in Calicut that though it was pouring, within 5 hours we were able to cut the belly portion, because in 737 it is in the belly, and we were able to extricate the FDRs by about 5 o'clock in the morning. Now we have to check the integrity of these. I was fairly confident because there was no fire in Calicut. There was very minimal fire, I would say, but there was no fire. So I was quite sure that we will be able to milk the data, whatever is required, perhaps in India itself. And my experience was right. And we reached back. We straight away went to the DGCA lab. At that point of time, there was only Recorders Lab was in DGCA. So we went there. We were able to milk the raw data.
Got it. But how complicated is it to extract or extricate that data?
So please understand, I think none of the so-called self-styled aviation experts know how this procedure takes place. This is a very long drawn process again. After the raw data is available, what do? It's an encrypted data. So then you have to convert it into a actionable data, which is called engineering parameters.
For our listeners, examples of engineering parameters include crash severity, crash type, exact location where the accident happened, surface conditions, etc.
Now the third part is still there. In fact, the third part is, even then when the engineering parameters have been made available to us, we need to read that. To read that, we need some charts. We need some graphs. So the third part is translating that engineering parameters into the charts which we can read. All of us can read, in like a graph. In this, the any FDR is getting feedback, is getting inputs from so many components, so many control surfaces, so many engine controls, so many throttle controls. Now each component has got a timer.
Okay.
Now each timer, to the say 1/10 of a second or 1/100th of a second, it has to be aligned for to exactly know that, okay, this particular point on the graph pertains to what. Say now the time is 5:15. Okay, seconds 5:15:20. Your watch may also say 5:15:20, but it may say 5:15:20 further, say 80 milliseconds. Mine may say 70. So this is called instrument bias. There's a minor bias. So when there are so many components which are giving input to a flight data recorder, these biases are to be negated. That if your 70 second is equivalent to my 80 seconds, understood? So that is how we have to then only the reference will start. Now this is the most important thing, to start the reference. When you go down to 100th of a second or a millisecond, then you have to undergo this exercise, of which very few people know how to do it, and which very few people are aware of that.
Got it.
Because see, in this particular accident, that the whole game was finished in less than a minute. So so the investigators will be not interested in a second input. They will perhaps want 1/10th of a second, or maybe 1/100th of a second. I think they'll go down to 1/100th of a second. So that is a minute thing. That is the I would say the precision with which the investigation is done.
Right, got it. But sir, what happens when the AIB has doubts that it cannot resolve?
If there is at any point of time, there is an iota of doubt that while opening or while disassembling the recorders, there is a likelihood of its damage, or maybe deletion, or maybe erosion of any data, it is prudent that the leadership team at AIB and Civil Aviation Ministry, they should take a call and take these FDR, these recorders, to the manufacturer.
Got it. But in this case, even before the AIB could start a proper probe, the black box has been found to be so damaged that it has had to be transported or flown to the NTSB lab in the US. What do you say to that?
Even if they have taken, then so what? Yeah, so what? Because
Got it.
probably the government doesn't want to take a chance of 0.001%.
But it is clear that the AIB needs a lot of NTSB's assistance in this probe. How do you see this?
See, NTSB is equivalent to AIB in India.
Hmm.
DGCA is equivalent to FAA in America. So when the accident has taken place, now the ball is in AIB India's court. So we'll coordinate with NTSB, and should we need some assistance, we will go through NTSB, and they will do the coordination at their end. Those people are, they act like observers because we need to give them some information at some regular interval.
Hmm.
It's a very well drafted procedure in Annex 13, and there is a manual of crash investigation that's called Doc 9756, which gives a full procedure as to how the investigation should progress. So, and these documents and these annexures, they don't come over a period of say 1 year or 2 years. They go through hundreds of iterations. There are people, there are in the committees, there are experts who debate and discuss for times, for years, and then one document it comes out.
Right. Got it. Got it, sir. But again, the fact is undeniable, I think, that the AIB in India works under quite a few constraints, right? Primarily, shortage of manpower.
When I was there, and my cabinet minister was Honorable Jyotirada Scindia. So I had taken up the case because when I went there, I inherited 17 investigators, and out
Hmm.
of 17, also I had about 9 or 10, and
Okay.
mostly they were from DGCA. They were from DGCA. They had been loaned
Absolutely.
to AAIB because AAIB was erstwhile a part of air safety vertical of DGCA. So rightfully, when AIB was formed in 2012, the major chunk of air safety should have been given to AIB, and air safety should have been given a different role of a prior to an accident role.
Hmm.
That's a supervisory role or a regulator's role. Anyway, whatever be that as it may, let's leave that at that. First of all, I found the 17 was very inadequate because if we were to have a regional presence in, say, Mumbai, in Bangalore, in Hyderabad, then we need it. So I moved a case of strengthening of AIB. The establishment of AIB should be around 50. But
Got it.
now the major question which you asked is, what is the strength? Even when I was having a establishment of 17, I had about 10 investigators. So even while the establishment has increased now to say 50 or say to 45, but the number of investigators is same.
So why aren't more people joining AIB?
In my view, the reason is the compensation which we are not offering. If because in my time the compensation was about 1 lakh or 1.25 lakh, I believe it has been increased to 1.5 lakh. You tell me an experienced investigator with about say 20-25 years service, why he'll come for 1.5? And
True.
it reminds me of that saying that if you pay peanuts, you'll get monkeys.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if DGCA can pay handsomely to the FOIs, an amount of 5 lakhs, 6 lakhs, 7 lakhs, up to 10 lakhs, or whatever, maybe it was huge. It was about 8 lakhs. And why the investigators can't be paid? You increase it, the investigators from other countries will also come and join you.
Okay. But keeping that aside, do you think the AIB has the tech wherewithal to carry out probes of such complexity and proportions?
I'll tell you, I'll be very frank. A, it can't be, see, AIB is not 12 years old, 13 years old. When the Calicut accident take place and I went with that recorders to DGCA lab, I made up my mind that it is high time AIB should have its own lab. At
Right.
that point of time, when that I would say the pressures eased out, I went to my minister. By the time the minister had changed, from Hardeep Puri sir, Mr. Scindia had come. So I requested him. I said, sir, we want to have a straight. And he's a very brainy guy. He immediately sanctioned 5 CR. He said, okay, go. I contacted HAL and NAL. I said, please make a lab for us. And I believe some 8-9 crores have been spent on this state of the art lab. Fine. Now we have wherewithal in place. But to work on this wherewithal, we need some specialists. We need domain experts. We have
Right.
in industry, we have in HAL, we can get those guys. But why he will leave that public sector unit job and come to, if we pay him, if we compensate him well, he'll certainly come here. So this is what angle the ministry should look at. And I'm sure AIB will go places.
Okay. Just to understand better, what is an ideal crack team of investigators? For instance, how big is that team usually?
See, ultimately, the investigating team which will be doing the investigation will be about of say between 5 to 7 people, because there will be one or two domain pilots, I would say. Then there will be engineers, propulsion engineer, control engineer, avionics engineer. So that is in any case, whenever we have been, whether it's a small accident or it's a big accident, we have been making a quite a comprehensive team, and we always leave it to the IIC, that is the investigator in charge, that he can co-opt people should he need it, more experts. See, in Calicut, I'll give you an example. I requested, I wanted, because the captain was a mildly diabetic. So I wanted a physician's view. So I requested that time the director of AIMS, Mr. Guleria, a very famous doctor, I said, sir, please send your endocrinologist to us. So he sent his HOD of endocrinology to us, and we took his opinion. So we wanted that what effect that medicines could have on his motor skills. Okay. So there is no end, You want to co-opt a forensic expert, you want to do a terror expert, every facility is available.
Right. Mr. Handa, what do you think of the safety panel that has been separately set up by the government to probe the accident?
The government has done very well by making a team under the chairmanship of Home Secretary. See, if say I was doing this, say I was the IAC and I were doing this investigation. If I want Ahmedabad Police Commissioner to come and report to me because I want to ask him, so he can always tell me. He can always tell me, sir, I'm very busy with the Honorable CM. I'll come 2 days later. I want someone again from forensic. He'll say, sir, I am doing something more important. So the
Right.
government has done very well by putting, because every police officer directly or indirectly reports to Home Secretary. So whenever he'll call for a meeting, everyone will come run and jumping. That's a master stroke the government has done. So what is done, that particular angle of sabotage or whatever. So they have really taken that pressure from the investigating team from there. Otherwise it is very difficult to coordinate such
You don't think
a.
there'll be overlaps or interferences from the panel?
There, no, there will be overlap, but I won't call it interference. So
Hmm.
if they want some
Because,
data,
for
so
example, the
this
black
team
box
will.
is supposed to be probed only by the AIB, but I think now the contents, the
No,
data will also go
no.
to the panel, right?
So what? You think the Home Secretary is not capable of handling this data? You think the police officers, they don't know how to keep the secrets of the things confidential?
Okay.
How we can jump to this conclusion? So they have
No, but there is
they
a
run
body to do
their
this. Why set up another panel?
their the entire the entire intelligence setup is managed by them. The entire anti terror is done by NIA. So this is a very I would say, sorry to use, I'm going to use a word. This is a very silly question, and this is a very silly doubt. I
Right.
I would give I would give hats off to the brain who came up with this thing, that will this particular angle could have bogged down the technical investigation by AIB. So they have very wisely taken out and given it to the highest ranking government servant in India.
Yeah, finally, sir, I think almost all crash investigations in the world have taken a year. The time for this, the preliminary report in 1 month and the final one in 3 months. Do you think it's a little too ambitious?
Only the committee which is headed by Home Secretary, that is going to give this report in 3 months.
Right.
It's a very tedious job. So I'm sure my successor will be putting his head together and taking data from DGCAs, because the DGCA has all the data of pilots and their training status. So he may be
Mm.
working on it. See, we need to exercise patience. I have been in whichever TV channel I have gone, I have requested everyone with folded hand that please have patience, please show patience, please do not put any pressure on both the team of AIB team and the other team. Let them work, even if the committee by Honorable Home Secretary, if it takes time, let it be. Let the facts come out before the Indian public. That is most important. That is most important.
On that note, thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the morning brief. It was a wonderful discussion.
Thanks, Anirban. Thanks for giving me an opportunity. I have tried my best to clarify the doubts. And once again, my heart goes out to the relatives and the loved ones of those people who have lost their nears and dear.
In the end, aviation safety isn't just about what went wrong. It's about whether we let the right institutions ask the right questions with the time, independence, talent, and tech they needed to find the answers. Just like a black box cannot speak unless it's decoded, a system cannot learn unless it listens. And here's a system which probably needs to be overhauled. Here are rules that need to be rewritten. As the world watches, India's investigation of the AI 171 crash will be judged not just by what it uncovers, but also by how the probe was conducted. That's it for today. This episode was produced by me and Vinay Joshi, sound designed by Amrit Reggie. A new episode of The Morning Brief drops every Tuesday, Thursday and Friday, wherever you get your pods. Keep listening.